Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity.
I'm your host, Jason Noble, and with me today is Andy, the man merchant. I love that you have that on your name now. Love it. Now,
Hey, you've been saying it so much, we got to put it on there.
It's just something I just love calling you, even when we're not even on air. Just like to love to call you that, And we got feedback from our last podcast going like, hey, we want you to go deeper into the mid-year financial review topics around cash flow and then rebalancing. So we're going to go into more of like how income changes could impact not just your savings rate, but then also your taxes, but then also going into rebalancing the portfolio. And we're going to focus on three critical areas: asset location, your return optimization, and emotional mitigation. Understanding these areas can really help you make better informed financial decisions. So we want you to stay tuned as we go through this and unpack these advanced strategies, helping you navigate the financial journey with confidence and with clarity. And so, Andy, the man merchant, let's get us kicked off here. So, cash flow changes, how can that impact your savings rate and taxes?
Well, the biggest one we talk about and why we picked this as one of our main topics in the mid-year is as we've talked a ton on a past podcast, is that cash flow is the driver of really most of the investment strategies. At the end of the day, you can't invest without it. You can't allocate money into strategic strategies, long-term savings, retirement planning, all the stuff without good, positive, or optimal cash flow. So it's important that we review it, not just the beginning of the year, but the middle of the year and the end of the year. We've referenced it commonly to maybe many of you can relate to a workout journey and trying to build muscle, or to maybe a weight loss journey where you're trying to improve your health that way. It's not like you get the plan and then just check in a year, right? I mean, those if I'm a personal trainer, I'm in that business and I'm trying to help coach you along the way. If I'm not having a mid-year check on that key component of whatever it may be set, and in this case, maybe it's adding certain muscle mass or reducing a certain, changing some of the health grades, you're not there. And so income and cash flow are so important on this perspective because it drives taxes. It drives, if you're making more income than you expected, you're going to probably pay more taxes. So there's probably some proactive things that you can do along the way to mitigate maybe that surprise tax burden that you're going to get when you file your tax return, right? Nobody likes negative cash flow or unplanned for cash flow. But it also allows us to kind of set some expectations or some planning around ways to reduce taxes throughout the year. So understanding where your cash flow is headed from an income perspective, which is my angle, and we're going to, Jason, jump into some expense conversation with you, I think. But it's so important because it's going to help us monitor that. Now, on the other hand, if you're not having maybe as good of a year as you expected, hey, you set out that, hey, I'm going to live on this and I'm going to make this much money, our cash flow, and we're not maybe achieving that. We're not expecting to achieve that. Maybe you're in a business that's just not strong this year. It's a sales industry or whatever it may be. We have to make sure that we're not going to run into a liquidity crunch when it matters most. You don't want to get to, right, Jason, October, November, and then say, man, we got to skinny back on Christmas this year than what we maybe wanted to. We're not going to be able to give maybe the kids what they wanted as much. Not that that's what Christmas is about, but it's a good reference that people can share. But it involves cash flow. And if your expenses aren't there, it creates stress. And then it disrupts the plan. And then what happens is people lose faith and hope in their plan and their journey, and they give up. And so that's why it's so important that during this mid-year, and why we're talking deep dive, is income planning at the mid-year review sets the framework for a lot of things. But enough about the income. That's the easy side. Talk to me a little bit. I know, Jason, you shared with me earlier a client you had, which was on the expense side of that. And how have you kind of addressed that in your mid-year?
Well, they're high income earners, but they also have variable income. But they're doing really well. But then we looked at their essential expenses, and they spent $250,000 last year in essential expenses. And so that was the end of the year review last year, right? Going, okay, let's take a breakdown. Now, for those who are listening, essential expenses, $241,000 to be exact, was spent on essential expenses. That was on their home, that was on food, transportation, medical expenses. They had some medical things come up. Their children, was an essential expense. Maybe someone out there could argue that that could be discretionary. For them, it was essential. And then also charitable donations, right? All that was subcategories of the essential expenses. So the conversation as we had in the beginning of the end of last year, beginning of this year was, hey, we really need to have a better approach and process on these essential expenses. You have variable income, things could go up and down. I don't want you to get caught up too much in like just lifestyle drift. So now imagine that they could have taken that information, right? And they could have received it like, oh, Jason's going to put me on a budget. And that wasn't the case. It was just going, they knew that they've been working with me long enough where they know that I'm looking out for their best interests. So when we did their mid-year review, so far this year, they spent $70,000 on essential expenses. They're trending way lower, $140,000 on essential expenses versus $241,000. Okay, there's people right now that are listening like, are you out of your mind, Jason? Are you really using this as an example? It's an extreme example. It's $100,000 difference in essential expenses, right? Now, let's take these numbers and actually put it into percentages to make it more relatable. If you are having your cash flow coming in and you're seeing 60, 70% going out for essential expenses, that's pretty typical, right? But if you see that you have 50% going out for discretionary expenses, like you're going to have to take a revaluation and going like, okay, are we living beyond our means? Do we need to start making adjustments? And the other reason why Andy and I thought this would be a really good example is there's people that are listening right now that believe I can't do anything to adjust my essential expenses. And that is simply just not true. It's a myth. It's a financial myth that you can't change anything on your essential expenses. So like one of the things that, not for this couple, but something that I talk about with a number of couples is what are they using on their streaming services? And like one of the couples, they're like, oh, we got MGM Plus, and we forgot to cancel the subscription. That was like $9.99 a month, $10 a month just on that. And I'm like, okay, well, what about HBO Max? There's really no good shows on there right now. Why you still have that? That's another $10 a month, right? So $20 a month in less than 5 minutes was identified that they could have that money being used somewhere else. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to put more energy into this than what I want you guys to do. Come back with me and let's meet in 2 weeks to then review what other essential expenses that you have, like for your home, that you feel like you could cut because you're just not using them. And they were like, they ended up finding $480 a month on money that they identified as essential expenses that they weren't using or they were using very rarely and it wasn't worth the cost. Now they made that determination. That's $480 back in their pocket, back into their budget, and they could use that money for what they want, whether that be long-term investing or paying down debt, whatever the case may be. But this is where don't just look at your discretionary. Don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of moves on discretionary, but also look at your essential expenses and see where you could reallocate that money into savings or paying down debt, whatever the case may be. Andy,
Well, I
was
love
that a
what you
good
said.
example?
Oh, I love it. It ties into, and I think a good takeaway for those that are tuning in today is, this conversation doesn't have to happen in the office and when you're meeting on your formal, in air quotes, your formal mid-year with us, right, or our team, or what we do. These conversations, these mid-years need to happen at the dinner table, or the breakfast table over coffee, or on the back patio. Having a conversation, I'm sure everybody that's listening could probably relate to the whole subscription-based savings. And you know what? I'm a fan of the penny saved is a penny earned, or dollar saved, dollar earned, however you go with it. The reality is that if you could find $400 a month in savings, I mean, that's a pretty substantial amount. We were talking the other day. I was talking to our chief investment officer about just some discussion, and I think there was some cell phone outages, and we couldn't connect and do these things. But here's the funny thing, Jason. We were talking. If the amount of money people pay for their technology, expenses or the communications, whether or not it's cables and subscriptions and cell phones today, versus investing that same amount of money into a more efficient coach who can help you make better, more informed decisions. That's what Scott and I were talking about. Is like, man, I couldn't believe I'm spending this much money on a cell phone service that went out and I couldn't do business for the day, right? And the cost that had. Like, just think about it. How many people value that as an expense? And I'm getting a little off topic here, but I think it's relevant compared to investing in someone like a financial partner like us, what we do at the Clear Picture Wealth Program, and help you make more of these optimal decisions. Did you know that there's ways to save $400 a month just by having a conversation around your subscriptions and maybe your technology or your communications expenses? And what could you do if you had that 600? Because the last thing you can do, right, Jason, on that expense, if you find it, then go reallocate it to another, discretionary expense, like or less optimal essential expense. So I think it's so important. I think you nailed it on the head that once you know what your income is, less control over that, unless you're self-employed and can drive the final number or sales, and focus on what you can control. And that's the expenses. Understand where your expenses are going, why they're going there, what value does it add to you and your family? Is there ways to reduce it? If there is, try it. If it isn't, it's not something you can do. We're not asking people to kind of uproot their lifestyle, right, and just change it. Nobody's asking anybody to, you shouldn't burden today for the hope of tomorrow. It needs to be a balance. So I love the shared story there. So
the what connected with those particular clients that went from 240 down to like the 140 projected by the end of the year was really around what we're doing with the portfolio passive income. They're getting around right now about $80,000 a year in portfolio passive income. Now, as you could imagine, as that continues to compound and grow off of, it's going to be able to replace their essential expenses way sooner if they're spending like 140, right, yeah, versus 240, and they saw that as a financial incentive to be able to make pretty good in the right direction changes so that they could then be able to not be as reliable on their income through work, even and their income through work is volatile at times. So that was another part of it. It's all about the clear picture analysis and going into, we could replace your essential expenses with your portfolio when we get to this point. It's not happening overnight. It's going to move in that direction, but not if you keep on moving your essential expenses higher. And so they really resonated with that message, and they themselves made the adjustment. That was the beautiful part of that story. Let's get into the second part. And before we do that, this is where we want people to go to clearpicturefinancial.com. Check out our other podcasts. Go to our blogs. Look at the information that we have. A lot of great content on there. But if you want to schedule a time with a specialist, that's where we want you to enter in your information, and one of our team's members will reach out to you. And you may be meeting with me or the man, Andy Merchant. Who knows? With that being said, let's get into the portfolio side of it. Andy, like on it, it's not just that one part, right, of portfolio drift. I feel like we covered that, but let's talk about asset location, return optimization, and emotional mitigation within the next 6 minutes.
Yeah, those are the three big ones we talk about at a mid-year, right? We think they're important because of what you just mentioned, Jason, is that by understanding, expenses, then we can allocate. And as those to remind those, portfolio location is really about, are we in the right buckets of public, private, and protection-based assets for those that are accredited in the private side. If your expenses are kind of mid-year, are not meeting the right game plan, it's really hard to locate those assets. But this mid-year review allows us to take a step back. Maybe we set a stronger, public allocation because the markets were maybe at a low time, and now it's time that the markets have, say, recovered again. Using some examples, if they recovered, maybe it's time to take and reset and take a little off the top run and put them into some more protection-based assets for the second half. So it's not thinking about the drift that you referred to. That's kind of an ongoing thing with some touch bases. This is more of a, did the markets outperform from a location standpoint? And should we take a little bit off or add to a bucket based on how the market moves? So,
Yeah, I'm having
yeah,
clients bring up, hey, with the political climate we're in right now, is there ways that we could put strategies in my account to help offset some of the risk going into the back half of the
yep,
year with the election? And this is my clients saying, I feel like it's going to be a contested election. I want to make sure I have a portion of my account that's set aside, having protections or buffers in it, so I'm not going to be fully exposed. So this is where we're having that mid-year review going in and going, yes, let's take a look at that. Here are the pros and cons of this decision. Here's what you get, but you sacrifice this in order to get that.
yep.
Or, let's talk in a week to make sure you're still good with that. Are the conversations that we're having as we go to the back half of the year. Let's talk about the other one I thought was interesting, which is around return optimization, really
Mm-hmm.
around the tax loss harvesting reviews. Can you walk
Yeah.
us through, for those who haven't listened to a prior podcast, what is tax loss harvesting and how does that play into return optimization?
Well, and this is really only applicable to those clients that have non-retirement accounts, and that's such an important part of the location of assets, is making sure you've kind of got it in different buckets so you can take advantage of these strategies. But during the middle of the year, we do like to say, okay, the strategy's been implemented. If you own individual stocks, or even in this case, maybe a number of baskets of ETFs, we can look at the opportunity to build what's called a tax loss harvest bank. So a great sample is I contacted a client today. We have a couple stocks in there, a number of stocks, I should say. One of them's done really well. One of them hasn't done so well. So to control and put some more tax bank, we were able to sell the one that has lost, and we reallocated those proceeds into an upside strategy. But we're also able to diversify out of or reduce the concentration of another stock. But we did it without paying taxes. How? Is because we took the gain and offset it with the created loss. So it's always about, not matter what you make, it's sometimes what you keep. And that's such an important part. And the mid-year allows us to celebrate that, because in today's, markets, you're going to see some stocks that move around quite a bit. And we do like to start building up those tax loss harvest banks throughout the year. So it's a big check box that we go through during the mid-year.
Yeah, and I've seen tax loss harvesting really work out for my clients who are going to go on to the Affordable Care Act right before they go on to
Yes.
Medicare, where we have this loss bank that gets to get carried forward. And so when we sell the longer term investments that are positive, we're able to offset that with the carried forward losses. And how they factor in, like how much you pay in premiums, is based off of your modified and adjusted gross income. So capital gains can impact your MAGI. It's how
Yes.
do you offset those gains with losses so that you can get a lower premium. This is the thing that goes into my mind, Andy, when we talk, is all these things that we are discussing, even in a mid-year review. It's all connected. It's all
Yes.
connected into what are the goals and the intentions of the money, and what are we trying to offset? What kind of risk do we want to offset? What are the opportunities we want to take advantage of? It's always an ongoing topic of conversation. And let's go into emotional mitigation. Okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
turn that one over to you.
Hey, you know what? You think about it. We're all exposed to, the highs and the lows of what's going on in the world. Right now you can turn on CNBC or Fox, or pick your news station, and you're gonna get a plethora of information that you're gonna have to process. Part of our job is is to help people plan or emotionally connect to their money, and it gets tough. And so really what we're wanting to do here is ask a simple question, right, to our clients. This is what I ask every one of my reviews, like, how are you feeling about things, right? Give me your perspective, because if you're nervous, if you think that things are great, right, if you're worried about things, it's going to be really hard to stay committed to the plan. So we love the fact that we can take the mid-year to kind of just do a check. This isn't always about us talking at people about data and information and data points and support characteristics. This is about learning and getting feedback. And so we love this one because we want to make sure that we're not our clients that we're online, right, with their plan or in line. Sorry, it's really about if I'm not understanding where they are emotionally around the markets and their money, and then the plan says one thing, but their minds aren't there on another thing, and I'm trying to implement the plan on their behalf. Guess what ends up happening is that we end up having no reaction, no change. We get an emotional reaction that derails a plan. So this is an important check. We just like to know where people feel, like how they're feeling.
Well, this is why I turn it over to you, because you're the man, Andy. And this is, a good way to wrap up this part of the conversation. Is we just reviewed cash flow changes and how that could be impactful. We also reviewed what's going on within the portfolio and three key areas there for you to take into consideration when it comes to your financial future. That was just Andy, the man merchant, dropping knowledge once again on us, educating us so we can make better informed decisions. I'm your host, Jason Noble, and that was 20 Minutes of Clarity. Thank you so much.